welcome to another episode of What's Going On with Shaun, a variety podcast grounded in marketing, but with an appetite for quality conversations about things that make life worth living. Time is precious, so thanks for tuning in today as we find out what's going on with Eliana Raggio. Yes,
that's correct.
Eliana Raggio.
That's a lot of syllables. I know. It's a mouthful.
It's amazing. I can't believe it's taken this long for you to be on What's Going On with Shaun. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
My lack of attendance on a What's Going On with Shaun is not due to a lack of love or respect for you, my friend. I will just say that because you are one of my absolute favorite people in automotive, and I know you know that.
You're an angel to say that. I appreciate it. We have been friends for a long time. We're going to get into a lot of that stuff on this episode. And don't feel bad. What's Going On with Shaun ended up being how I kind of taught myself a little bit about what's going on with the podcasting stuff. And it's become part of what I do in my business now too, which is kind of cool. But I don't host a lot of What's Going On with Shaun episodes now. The idea is I'd like to just have a handful of select guests throughout a year. If I have half a dozen in 2023, I will be so happy. But
well, then I'm honored. I'm one of a half a dozen.
I did record a bunch of episodes in like the 2020-ish era, somewhere around there when I first started doing it. And then I was like, I don't have as much time for it. So having you on, there's a couple of reasons. One, for the audience, I'm sure you probably know, well, both of us, but you probably know Eliana Raggio. And I was just talking to Eliana before we went live about the pronunciation of that. So I was kind of surprised that you're like, people ask you a little bit about the pronunciation of your first name, but you get that on both first and last?
Now I do. And I always tell people, I'm like, say my last name like you're trying to pronounce Italian food and you will get it right. So it's Raggio, like
Raggio,
fettuccine. Okay.
I know. Well, I've never asked you to actually clarify that, and I've known you for a long time. So
that's okay. Everyone calls me Eliana.
Yes, that's what I've always called you. But
yes, thank you, sir.
Listen, audience tuning in for this one, we're going to be pushing this everywhere. Our personal social media, but also through Dealer eProcess, which we're going to get to that in just a second.
Thank you.
Eliana doesn't really need much of an introduction, but if you don't know her and you're in the car business, I'll be shocked because Eliana, not only has she just recently announced her role as the chief marketing officer at Dealer eProcess, we're going to get into it, but she has been in the industry for a long time and in a lot of really high profile spots because you'll see her providing MC services at events. She literally started and hosted the longest running weekly webinar series in our industry for a long time. She's just reinstituted a webinar series over at DEP, which is cool. We're going to talk about. But if you don't know Eliana, you definitely need to get in touch. You definitely need to say hi to her if you see her at a conference. She is one of the most warm, open, thoughtful, friendly, and intelligent people that you need to know in our industry. So in this episode, hopefully I'll get to peel back a little bit about
I'm blushing.
you and maybe even let people experience a little bit of the stuff that people don't always ask you about. So I hope you guys have all got about 10 hours because we're going to do a long one. No, not 10 hours. But
okay, wait. And I before you start with even the first question, I have to say I am even though Shaun is a dear friend, very, very uncomfortable because usually I'm the one who's asking the questions and I don't think I'm really particularly that interesting. So very uncomfortable on this side of the Q&A session. So Shaun, please be gentle with me, sir.
Oh, I will, for sure. For sure. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you about is obviously I was so excited about your announcement, which is really barely even, a couple of months, not even really, maybe close to that. But right around NADA, you guys dropped this big announcement, you and Dealer eProcess, that you've joined their executive team as chief marketing officer. And I was like, this is amazing. Great for you personally, but great because I love Dealer eProcess for a lot of different reasons. So tell me a little bit about the process. Like that seemed like it happened really fast.
It did happen really
an opportunity
fast.
presented itself and boom, you're there. So tell me a little bit about that.
Honestly, I didn't even know I was I wasn't really looking for something. But when somebody, a friend of mine said, I had an interesting conversation and they were wondering if you might be interested. And I said, the same thing I've always said this, Shaun, and it's a good practice. I've always said, I never say no to an opportunity that hasn't presented itself to me yet. So that's exactly what I said. And then the opportunity did present itself. And it's just one of those things when opportunity knocks, you have to answer the door. And so I did. And I was brave enough to step through it. And it is not a decision that I regret. It has been a whirlwind. It's been amazing. Dealer eProcess is an incredible company with amazing products. And wow, the people I get to work with there are just awesome. It's the coworkers who really make a job really worthwhile, that as well as the wonderful clients. It's just been wonderful. And Dealer eProcess has welcomed me with open arms. And I can't say enough about that company, my company. I can actually say it now. And all the things that we're doing together. And you're right. It's only been a couple months. And boy, oh boy, have we gotten a lot already accomplished in just that short time. And we have a lot more to accomplish for the rest of this year. Shout out to all of my DEP family, man. I love you guys. It's been fantastic. It's one of those things like after I got into it, I got the job and I started working there. And just within the first 2 weeks, it was one of those moments. And Shaun, I hope you've had a moment like that. Audience, I hope you've had a moment like that too, where you just knew 100% certainty that you were in the right place at the right time. And that's where I feel I am right now.
Yeah, I think, some people know about this about you. Some people don't know this about you, but you spent 8 years in the United States Navy, right?
I did. During the Gulf War.
And there's something about that prepares you for other things that happen in your life. You're ready you have a self-discipline. You have almost a predisposition to challenges, like not afraid to be uncomfortable, right? You realize that being uncomfortable is what produces the greatest growth, and these opportunities come up. And so when I heard about all this happening, and then just listening to you, tell us a little bit about it now, it just made me think, you were, part of the early part of you as developing as a good human on the planet, it was part of what even sets you up and prepares you for this type of great role. And immediately you just jump in, both feet ready to go deep into the pool. I mean, I think you guys, although this episode will come out, who knows, in a week or so after we do some editing on it, but you just literally reinstituted a webinar series now in Dealer eProcess. And I think you guys just launched yesterday, right? Your first one?
Yes. With our old buddy, Greg Gifford, actually. So,
Double G.
Yeah, it was so funny because you were not the only person, you had said this to me, but you were not the only person who said, so when are you going to start doing webinars again? I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many other things to do, but all right, I'll do a webinar again. And so we're making this happen because you know what, darn it, the auto industry deserves great free education that will help them along to help them reach those goals on a myriad of topics, something that you shouldn't have to pay for, that you'll get actionable insights to, strategies you can use almost right away, free, no obligation, that kind of stuff. This is exactly the kind of thing that will help, because if we all rise together, so we help our industry move forward, the better our dealers do, the better the entire industry does. And so I'm all about education and continuing education. Because if you're doing the same exact thing that you were doing 2-3 years ago, I promise you there's a better way to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I have learned so much, especially on the B2B side of marketing and Some things work far better than others. Webinars, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Which
even
is what?
when we were in the same place where there was a webinar series going on. I wish I knew some of those things. For an audience, when you're trying to connect with folks, webinars are one of the best places to find people with higher intention, right? And from a corporate marketing perspective, there's so much effort that gets put into old marketing strategies, which are usually somehow tied to some stupid legacy sales methodology where it's, hey, marketing team, do whatever it takes to get as many leads as we can, right? Big companies have the same issue that dealers struggle with. We have to have more leads, but what kind of process do you have to make sure that you should even be trying to get more leads? But are they
quality leads? That's
right.
Like, and you could have 10,000 leads and they're crap leads, but wouldn't you rather have 1,000 great leads? That's my question to all of you.
And webinar attendees, people that show up, the intent of that person is so much different than somebody that walks by your booth and let me scan your badge. How is that high intent compared to somebody that showed up on your webinar? And so you give our people an opportunity through a webinar to get to know your company a little bit better. You guys, I'll just say this because I could talk about this topic alone for the whole episode. It's brilliant that they brought you on to their executive team. It's brilliant. I know some people like brilliant, really big word. Yeah, it's brilliant that you're reinstituting a webinar series that, not for nothing, to offer a webinar series like that with the firepower of Eliana Raggio at the helm of it, your networked connections into the industry to bring on high quality guests, and to offer that for Dealer eProcess, to offer that at no charge. I don't care who you are. Fight me, people. Debate me on this. To do that for no charge with somebody like Eliana that has the network to bring high quality people together, I think the only thing that you guys are going to be, it's not even worried about. I think the only thing to keep your eye on the ball is frequency. Don't overuse the audience, right? Don't fatigue that audience in that, but to build that back up, you're going to give dealers that maybe never even considered what's all the rage about Dealer eProcess? Why haven't I heard about them before? Like, what do I need to know about them? You're giving them a closer seat to be associated with that brand and hear from you and how passionate and how committed that company is to making sure that people get the best education from the best people in the industry. You're bringing them to your table and saying, it's free. We want you to get better. And oh, by the way, we're right here when you want to talk to somebody that's going to give you probably a different experience than you've had with some of the others. I love it. There's nothing about it that I don't love. So I'll be cheering you guys on big time. I think it's awesome.
Thank you, Shaun. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just, first of all, I love being in front of a microphone. I love talking to dealers. I love great new strategies that actually move the needle for dealers. And I love that DEP has a great lineup of products already, but how can you marry the two? How can you, take the other wonderful thought leaders that are in the industry and bring them in to what DEP also offers and share that with everyone so that we all benefit from it. And that's really, what we're trying to do. And it was really nice. I had a dealer who actually was on the webinar with Greg Gifford and sent me a chat. Didn't know the guy. I know a lot of dealers, that. But I didn't know this gentleman, So he sends me a chat during the broadcast with his cell phone number and says, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you just call me after the webinar is done? And I was like, sure can, Jim. So after the webinar concludes, I call this gentleman as requested, and he starts off by saying, I loved your webinar. Never seen one of your webinars. I love Greg Gifford. Never seen one of his things. Love what you guys did. Great information. Now, let me tell you, I am a Dealer eProcess client. And I said, oh, that's so nice to know. I didn't know that. And he says, I love you guys. I love you guys so much. I love, your products are great. When I first came on board years ago, I can tell you, as soon as the stuff got turned on, instantly we saw great results. Fantastic. something I'd love to hear. But then he went on to say how much he's like, but the reason I stay with Dealer eProcess is because of your great customer service. And I was like, wait a second. Now you're talking, buddy. Now you're talking my language, because that's the thing. I mean, look, we do have great products. You come see for yourself, talk to the people. That's fine. But if you're looking for great customer service, that's what we're really known for. Is we bend over backwards. We give great information. We, constantly evaluate what we're doing here and try and help the dealer reach their specific goals. And that, I think, is the big difference. If you had to pigeonhole what Dealer eProcess does compared to, everyone has their special thing. Somebody has a coupon here and somebody else has this over there. Dealer eProcess is customer care. That's what we're really known for. That's what our clients love us for.
If you think about, history teaches us a lot of lessons, and then some people also then never learn from those lessons. But when it comes to websites in the automotive space for dealers, there've been a lot of website providers over the years, and I won't name their names, but just about every single one of them, certainly an exception being Dealer eProcess, has gone the way of they grew too fast, or something happened in their business model that compromised the very thing that you got complimented on off of that webinar series, which is customer service. And I don't know if there's a day that goes by where I don't scratch my head thinking like, where did customer service go? Just the basic decency of like, hey, I went out to dinner and like, it seemed like they didn't even care if I liked their food or how they treated, it's just, there's an absence of service in just about every direction we look in. So that's a high compliment for you guys. And I will tell you that my own personal experience, I know your team pretty well. They reached out to me at a time where, they didn't really need to. They were friendly to me and I was friendly with them. And I remember two different stories where I was like, that only happens if you're really taking care of a customer. And I'll just tell very briefly. One of them was a dealer who I think really wanted to blame Dealer eProcess for, hey, we had a bad month. But because this dealer also wasn't just like, hey, we got our website and some digital marketing services, they were also using your reporting platform that I had never seen before. And I remembered being walked through that experience and I was like, that's amazing. Like I said, well, let's find out. Because if we're at fault, we want to fix it, saying this to their dealer. But what they did was they walked through all this stuff within their layers of reporting that I'd never seen before. And it's not as if I haven't worked for a few website providers, because I have. And the way that they peeled back layers of data that was coming from the DMS, that was coming from the CRM, that was coming from digital marketing, that was coming from the website, and then helped this dealer realize that they had all of these fundamental changes. Their top selling salesperson had been gone for 45 days, affected this whole month. They lost a finance manager, person who wrote finance. There were 2 or 3 people that were really important to the amount of business that they were doing that put through a lot of their deals. And salespeople sometimes work really well with some F&I people, and they kind of, and that was a huge dynamic. And the dealer immediately at the top level was thinking something's off with our service provider. It wasn't at all. But when they showed those points of data to the dealer, they were like, I'm so glad that we have the ability to see that, because then we're like, oh yeah. And it totally changed the whole thing. And they're like, gosh, we're so glad, from I think it's your fault Dealer eProcess to, oh my goodness, I'm so glad we have Dealer eProcess. It was pretty astonishing.
I love that story.
I'll tell you a shorter version of this one that it also speaks to this. I remember asking some of your team members, like, why are you guys maintaining 2 versions of your website platform, like at the same time? Like, that's got to be crazy. And I remember them telling me, like, we have a couple of clients that, based on how well their sites perform, their conversion rates, specific interior pages that they really pay attention to. So this is a very progressive dealer, a very smart dealer who was basically holding Dealer eProcess accountable to, I know you have new stuff. I don't want to go to the new stuff until you can prove to me that the new stuff is going to be equal to or better than what your existing stuff does. I don't care what the market thinks. I don't care what any other dealers think. I don't care what you guys think. I want you to reassure me there. And so they said, well, we're going to do that. that was them saying our most important clients, which are all of them, if they're telling us something and they're backing it up with data and they care about it, we're going to respond. And they did. And I was like, well, that's why some of these people are so fiercely loyal. And I thought, okay, those two stories alone were really influential in kind of shaping how I felt about what is dealer eProcess doing, how are they doing it, and why are they doing it that way. Anyway, now it's just, we can just like talk, what's a DEP glory path.
Thank you for saying all of that. That's so wonderful. And it backs up my feeling that I'm like 100% in the right place. I will tell you, one of the things that we're doing now at Dealer eProcess, I'm so proud of the smart people at Dealer eProcess have recognized that the number one thing that dealers have at their disposal might not be the thing that they are taking advantage of. And we are helping them. And that number one thing is data. Is their own first party data. And so we have this, we're trying to get the word out. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to get the word out here. We're trying to get the word out about Dealer eProcess has automotive's only connected retail platform where all of our tools, the entire gamut of them, the comprehensive breadth of all of our tools, which covers almost everything that you need, they all talk to each other. They all talk to each other. They all share the data in between each other. So because all the data is shared, we can pool all the data and then make a much better determination about every single unique visitor that interacts with any one of those products. And because we can do that, there's no lost data, there's no black holes, there's no part of the customer journey that we're missing. There's no part of that data that doesn't make it into the CRM, that isn't usable. We're activating the data that they actually have instead of having a piece of information that we can't access. We are doing it. And we're the only ones that are doing it. And we're being able to take that data and actually activate it so that dealers can make smarter marketing decisions and do it in a way that we can turn it back around and say, okay, you know what? It looks like this shopper likes features. They like to shop for cars and they like to look at the features of the car. So you know what? The next time that customer, that shopper comes to the website and looks at the website, why don't we change it? We're going to change the website so what they see is different, is unique to them. We give them a personalized customer shopping experience. Why? Because we have the data. We know how they shopped before, and we're going to serve them the things that they're looking for now in the way in which they want it served to them. So this is something no one else is doing, but it's all with the customer journey in mind. It's all improving the customer experience. And if you can personalize the customer experience, I mean, research from, I think it was McKinsey, who is notorious for, figuring out what people actually want. They have some crazy stat that says like 76% of all people, when they go to a website, they're looking for a personalized shopping experience. 76%. But 71% get pissed off when they don't get it. So are you giving people a personalized shopping experience? Guess what? You can't do it unless you have the data and know how they have shopped, how they like to shop, and then turn it around and serve it back to them in a way that they feel, you know what? This is where I want to shop, Yeah. And then, so the connected retail platform is something we're really, really excited about. We're throwing around the acronym CRP, and it has occurred to me that a lot of people don't know what a CRP is. So that is my opportunity to all of you out there. Stop by Dealer eProcess whenever you get a chance and learn more about what a CRP can do for you, a connected retail platform, because it's kind of earth shattering.
Well, if you don't already manage your business with data, if you're like, well, I don't care that much about data, it's possible that you were a victim of our industry. It's not alone, but our industry has loved to come out with, well, what's the buzzword? And sometimes it lasts for a year. Sometimes that buzzword lasts for a few years. And then it's like, better to burn out than fade away. But a lot of them kind of fade away. And it's like, oh, what happened with big data? Right. Or, so we talk about all these things, but oftentimes it's because there weren't enough pieces together to actually make it work and make it actionable or even understandable for the primary audience, which is the dealer. And, this is my way of kind of summarizing what you were just sharing. One, if you're a dealer and you just don't really focus that much on data, or you don't care that much about data, you got to change that immediately. Oh, and then you need to look for people that would be able to help in that journey of providing data from multiple sources and all over the place, that they're utilizing that in a way that is easy enough for you to understand. Not all data science is easy, but most of it, when it comes down to what happens from a retail automotive establishment, is pretty understandable. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. So understandable data, but then that it's being applied in a way, right, that it's executed on in a way that gets meaningful results. Because without those two pieces, like make it understandable, but also make it work in a way that when it's executed, it gets meaningful results for you because you're just Mr. or Miss Dealer doing your thing. If those two things are incorporated in all of that, you feel like you're part of it, and it also justifies why the data component becomes perhaps more important than anything else, because the data is going to be what saves you time. We don't need to waste time doing these things in this area because the data tells us it results in nothing or not enough. And it's going to save you money because the data also tells you, I used to share this in presentations all the time. It came from Moz. And it was like, on this side, it shows you how much time it takes to learn how to do good SEO yourself. And on this side, it shows you how much money it would cost you to do it yourself versus, outsourcing some of these things. And it went down the whole list, paid search, whatever you want to do. And I still feel like that's really important for dealers to think about, even in the context of data, right? It's very difficult to take on all this stuff yourself unless you're a really, really well capitalized group that does a lot of this stuff in-house. And even then, it may make more sense for you to partner with people that have figured this out and they're doing it for the right reasons, right? So anyway, all that I think is great. It's like, why wouldn't you be excited to be a part of that?
Oh my gosh, it's so great to be able to introduce something that's new and fresh into the automotive industry, something that we know dealers need. And again, something that we know is going to move the needle. Yeah. It's going to improve on profitability. And at the same time, I will tell you honestly, and Shaun, I know you know what I'm talking about. Dealers will never lose. No business will ever lose by improving the customer experience. If you do that, you will always win. You will always come out on top, Yeah. So shameless plug, dealeryprocess.com. And by the way, I forgot to say for the webinars, you got to go check out who our upcoming speakers are because they're amazing. dealeryprocess.com/webinars. Thank you.
Who's the next speaker coming up?
Next up. Oh, I don't know what happened to my camera. Hey, come on. Come back. Here we go. Next up, we have Atul Patel from Orbi, and he's actually going to be talking about data and how they can easily take the data, like the data that we would provide, and they put it into, they pool the data into a CDP. So Orbi is a customer data platform, right? So they pull the data into a CDP, and then what can they do with it? So this is exactly what we're talking about, is how to utilize that data, how to activate that data, and through a CDP, how you can also even automate marketing, specifically using specific data for specific shoppers in the way that they shop so that the marketing message is not lost. And this is literally the definition of what marketing should be. Serving them the right message at the right time in the way that they want to interact with it. What better way so you're not wasting your marketing dollars? It's that's going to be a great webinar. So we're working on par with Orbi to do that. After that, we have Brian Pash. We have Owen Moon talking about Fixed Ops Digital. Oh my gosh, he's going to be amazing. And then in June, right before the switch over to Google Analytics 4, George Nenny talking about, hey, are you ready for the switch over to Google Analytics 4?
Nice.
Which is going to be so important. I'm so proud of the DEP team because we're the only one that did, like, we changed our native code on our products so it would be specific for Google Analytics 4. Our team members are all certified in Google Analytics 4. Like, we're ready. We are so ready for this. We were the first ones. We're the only ones who changed the native code. We didn't do it any other way. We did it the right way. And it's just, I'm so excited for this next phase of dealer eProcess and how we're moving forward through 2023. I'm just so excited. It's just a great company.
It's going to be great. And you just named off, it's kind of interesting that baseball season just kicked off because all of the people that are going to be coming out on these first handful of webinar episodes, they're all home run hitters. Like,
yeah, I love it.
That's why I was saying, like, it's brilliant for you guys to get back in the game on that.
Stay tuned. You never know who's going to show up on a DEP webinar. Watch out. You know I know.
That's true. That is very true. Well, as if you even have any other available time based on all the things going on here with your new spot, you are also and have been a part of the Women in Automotive organization for a long time. I know you're on their advisory board, and a board member there for a long time, still very active. What's happening with them? I mean, there's a few things that I know because I know some of the same people, but I know you guys have got an event coming up, and
we do.
I don't know how many people in the world kind of know that, with Veronica and there's some cool stuff that's been happening there. So what's happening on that? Are you still pretty active with Women in Automotive?
Yes, of course I am. I would never leave my Women in Automotive sisters and brothers. We got a few brothers in there too. So Women in Automotive has their newest big conference of the year. You know, we got sidelined a little bit with, worldwide pandemic, whatever. But we're back at it. We're back at it. So the next conference is actually going to be in June, and you can find out more at womeninautomotive.com, and it's going to be called Recharged. It's going to be in Texas. So hopefully you'll show up, Shaun. Yeah. So it's the first time we're having it in Texas. And
I'll wear my boots.
Oh my gosh, I totally need to get a pair of boots. I totally have a Stetson though, so I got that covered. Anyway, I hadn't really thought about that. But yes, I'll be emceeing that event as well. We're still looking for some great speakers to fill the lineup, but man, do we already have some amazing speakers already set. And we're doing a lot with different OEMs, and oh my gosh, we have a great session that I know I can tell you about with Google. They do a session called I Am Remarkable. And so this is going to be like a 90-minute interactive session during the conference. I don't want to give too much away, but it's just going to be such a great conference, and it always is. And it's so good to get back together again. And our focus this year is going to be always, of course, elevating the role of women in automotive. But we have a particular focus, two more focuses, which would be on mentorship. We have a really strong mentorship platform, both trying to get people who feel they need a mentor, as well as people who would make great mentors, and pairing them together, right? Shaun, you would make a great mentor, by the way. And then also, we're also going to be doing regional conferences. So if you, can't get away for, a 2-day conference, and all come to one place, who knows? There might be a Women in Automotive social local to you, in a big metro area local to you. So we're going to be doing those as well, and concentrating on those as well, with, different speakers that are local there. And then also, nationally recognized thought leaders. And then, as always, getting women together to network and find out how they can all impact each other professionally and even personally. So some of the best friends I've ever made in automotive, I've met and become close with through Women in Automotive. And I know I'm not the only one. So it's one of those things that I've always been most proud of to be a part of, and never been more looking forward to it than this year. I think we're going to be doing things this year that we've never done before. And I'm so excited to see more people show up at the June conference in Texas. So I hope you'll be there.
That's great. I love that you guys are actually doing it in the middle of the country. I know why our industry loves to go to Las Vegas. The ones that love it the most are the ones that don't pay attention enough to all the good things that are happening during the event because they're either hungover or they're thinking about what they're doing that night. But doing something in the middle of the country is actually really smart. It allows people who really want to come to learn, even if they're like, this is going to be important for my professional networking. Being able to be in a place where the focus can remain clear. It's hard to do that in Vegas. I understand the appeal, but I'm glad you guys are doing something in Texas. I think that's great. And I'm glad to hear that, it's going strong. And yeah, the last few years has been really topsy-turvy for a lot of businesses and conferences and all that. But glad to hear that Women in Automotive has kind of used it to, calibrate the way that you guys want to go forward. And I think you guys are going to have a fantastic year. There's obviously, a bunch of folks there that are friends of mine too. I've only ever been to, I think, one. I think that I met your husband actually in Palm Springs at a
I took him to that one. Yeah.
I think it's the least number of people that ever showed up in a room for a presentation that I did. But it was that particular time in Palm Springs, it was meant to be a little bit more intimate, smaller rooms, smaller. So I'm not saying that as didn't bother me at all. And I really enjoyed it. It was the first time that I did something that was really far outside of anything digital marketing, advertising, sales, business development. And I did a presentation at that event where it was all on understanding your own personality profile and what that means to how you respond best to how you're communicated. And then also how you communicate to once you identify these other people. Really, it was a super great event. So I think you guys are going to have a fantastic year, which is cool.
Thank you.
I have so many things to ask you, so I'm gonna pick up my pace a little bit because I want to know some things.
Here we go.
And I want to open up. We are not restricted by time until you say I'm done. So sorry, audience. We want to get as much out of Eliana Raggio as we possibly can. So I don't know this about you. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a very shishi kind of neighborhood called the Main Line of Pennsylvania. It is outside of Philadelphia, and it was really, really nice neighborhood. It was beautiful. I had a great childhood.
Did you love your childhood?
I did. I have really, really wonderful memories. Except for the uncomfortable saddle shoes I had to wear at Catholic school, I did have a really great.
Do you have siblings?
So many siblings. Do you need an extra one?
No.
Okay.
I've got some.
Yes. So I have an older sister, a younger brother, a younger half sister. But then I also have, my parents divorced and they both remarried and I got steps. So then I got 2 stepsisters and 4 stepbrothers. And I was the middle child to begin with. And then with all the steps, I'm still the middle child. So there you have it. So Christmas is crazy.
I'll bet it is. That's awesome.
No, I love a big family.
Do you remember your first adult job? Where it's I got an adult job now.
Well, first job ever was when I was in high school. I think I was 14 or 15. And I was a waitress at a pancake house. And I loved that job.
I love pancakes.
And I got free pancakes whenever I wanted.
Oh, well, some people know this. Some people don't know this. You also were in the kind of radio industry there as a personality, doing weather and traffic updates and all that stuff. My question about that is that where you learned? Because at some point in time, you had to have either read or somebody taught you how to use your voice because you know how to enunciate and you know how to make sure that the expression of what you say up and down with tone, all that. And I've always been so impressed with you regarding that fact because a lot of people.
You never told me that, Shaun.
Well, I recognize that because I'm a musician and I try to be an expressive presenter myself, but I didn't think about it much until I was an adult. But the people that I know are like, wow, they're really good at it. You're one of them. And so where did you learn that?
Okay. So because you're a musician, you probably were a musician when you were in high school or even younger than that. So not a musician, but a singer. So, I did choir. I was in bands. I did musical theater, the whole thing. Right. So I guess I used my voice or learned to use the inflection then, was always a great reader. And then when I got to radio, I literally fell into it. Like we all fell into automotive. I fell into radio. So that was just a very, very strange, surreal experience. I started by doing voiceovers and I fell into that, by the way. That was a crazy story. A girlfriend of mine, beautiful girl, model, gorgeous girl. So she was hired because of her looks to also do a commercial, a set of commercials. Mm-hmm. So she said, I'm really, really nervous. I don't like my voice. I don't know if I can do this, And so she said, would you come with me? Come with me while I go record this. And I was like, sure, I'll come. So she's in the booth, she's trying to do it, and she is failing miserably, unfortunately. So the producer's like, here, have a drink, loosen up. She's trying to do whatever he can to get her to say the line in the way that he needs her to say it. Mm-hmm. So she comes out from the booth and she's like, I just don't know. And I'm like, it's easy. Say it like this. And I said the line and he said, you get in the booth. And I was like, what? That was my first voiceover. And he said, while you're in there, I have 3 others. Do this. It's a paying gig. Here, I'll pay you for all these. So he had me do like 4 commercials, like boom, boom, boom for 4 different people right off the bat. Yeah. And then he just kept calling me and hiring me. And then the radio station, the number 1 rock and roll station in Philadelphia, 93.3 WMMR, Philadelphia. They're still in business 50 years later, more than 50 years later. They heard my voice on a commercial, called me up, found who my producer was, called me up and said, we have an opening. Would you mind coming in and auditioning? By the way, do you have any radio experience? And I said, I don't mind coming in. Sure, I'll audition. No, I have no radio experience. I'm like, oh, okay, well, come in anyway. We'll see what happens. And 2 days later, they gave me a contract and I was on the morning show. What? Like completely fell into it, not That's trying, awesome. Not expecting. And then that started a great career of crazy, awesome rock and roll experience, morning show experience, voiceovers. I'm an award-winning voiceover artist now. And I loved every minute of it, except for the lack of sleep. Morning radio, people do not get a lot of sleep. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, that's probably why I couldn't go into it. But I love that.
You wouldn't
story.
Like it. You wouldn't like it. Like you're waking up at 3 a.m.
I don't think a lot of people know this, but I actually worked in radio at the end of high school. Like really? After senior year, I worked at a radio station for a summer that a friend of mine already was working at. Now I didn't. This was an AM radio station that played like not classic rock, like oldies kind of, what would they call that? Like, I don't know, like golden era songs, Okay. Like, do you know the way to San Jose? Ba, 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 ba. Easy listening. and then they would pipe in the Larry King show.
Okay.
A couple others in their format and their broadcasting. But I never got to be on the radio, although I got to sit in and make sure that each show and people like you that would go into a different booth and do your voiceover recordings. I had a stack of those. Remember those carts that have the reel on them? Like boom, boom, boom. And they're all set up to like this one goes then. So I never had to be on the radio. Like, hey, it's Shaun. I'm a dummy that's 18 and I'm smoking tons of cigarettes in this thing. And you don't even know it because I was, pretty much drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes until 3 a.m. until my shift was over.
Wow.
But that's a fun industry, but I could also see where it'd be like, gosh, man, you better be prepared for it too, because although I didn't have to get up in the morning, the nights were really late and there is kind of that rock and roll craziness. All the people that worked there that did actually do live on air stuff, they all had these kind of specific personalities and they weren't all super egotistical, but they all had a thing. And you could tell that radio had been their life for a long time.
Oh, yeah. And I got to tell you, I mean, it's so funny that I am such a voice person. I don't know how else to say it. Like when I hear a commercial now, I'm like, oh, is that Liam Neeson's voice? You know, like I will try and pick it out, you know, and for those people who have a great, like I remember walking into like the Verizon store, and I'm talking about phones, you know, with the Verizon salesperson. I just stop in mid-sentence. I'm like, by the way, you have a great voice. So, but yeah, I've met some truly incredible voices, not just speaking voice. I thought it was so surreal that I was getting paid to speak and not sing, you know, which is what you expect. You expect to get paid for singing, you know. But then again, of course, met a lot of really incredible artists while I was there too. So
I do know that you sing because you have sang a number of times at our karaoke parties that I've been throwing with my buddy Joe Webb for years and years and years. So shout out Joe Webb.
Hey, Joe.
Knows all that stuff. They're doing a summer camp thing. Aren't you doing that? Are you doing his summer camp?
Hell yeah, I am. I'm going to be a camp counselor.
Get there in the mountains and the canoes and automotive learning and all that good stuff.
Yes, the Dealer Knows Summer Camp. Be there or be square. It's really
I've heard they're going to do some karaoke there too, so you can bust out some songs on them.
Fantastic lineup of speakers there too, by the way. I mean, Joe Webb is collecting the great speakers. He's, just so you know, Joe Webb is also on the board with me at Women in Automotive, and he picks the speakers for Women in Automotive too. So
fantastic. Well, he's, you know, he's one of those people who've been in the industry for a long time. Yeah. And I think he is the resident to me, and I've been friends with him for a long time. He, to me, is kind of our default resident, comedian with applicable retail knowledge, right? Because he sees
really funny.
I feel this way about him, is like he sees everything through a lens of, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, like almost entertaining, specifically leaning towards comedy. There are so many things about our industry worthy of making fun of, and he's done a ton of it, you know, when he was doing a lot of the, you know, videos, you know, I mean, just so many really great, intelligently thought of so that we can laugh at it and learn from it. That's always been Joe. So I'm not surprised that he would be assembling a star-studded lineup for that. And it's so different, you know, every time I talk to people about it, they're like, this is a different thing. Like, why, this would be kind of cool. I had dinner with Tim James. He lives here in Granbury, Texas.
Yeah.
Of all places. He's from where I live now. And so Crystal and I went and had dinner with him and his wife just last week, actually. So a lot of good energy around that. That should be fun too. I mean, lots of good stuff. I wanted to also, though, ask you before we get, because we've been talking about so many things, is I don't know when was your first car business job? Like, how did you get into the car business?
Okay, that is a crazy story. So my best friend, she's still my best friend, Janine. Hey, Janine. Janine.
Hi, Janine.
I don't know why I'm blurry. Okay, I gotta tell this story. This is really, really funny. I think it's funny. So Janine, she's a lifelong car girl, right? She went to what is it? Northwood. The Northwood. She went to Northwood. Her dad was a dealer, had a ton of dealerships. Her dad was also like president of the Pennsylvania Auto Dealers Association. Like he was, right? So she grew up on a dealership floor. Like she was always going to go into the automotive industry. Me? No, I fell into it because of her. So she accepted a position in charge of sales at another website company, TK Car Sites. If you've been in the business for a while, then you would recognize the name. So she calls me up one day and she's like, girl, these people are making money hand over fist. You got to come and work for me, work in sales. We'll work together. We'll sell these websites, you know? And so she talks me into quitting my job that I was perfectly happy doing, quitting my job and going into the auto industry, working at this company with her, selling websites. Which I did. And that was in August of 2008. And in September of 2008, the auto industry crashed. We all remember that, don't we? And I literally turned to Janine and I was like, what did you get me into?
Yeah.
But that was how it started. And then, then came Cash for Clunkers and all kinds of stuff. And that was how my career in automotive started. And it was, and I never left. And I fell in love. And I never left.
Rucker.
Yes.
JD Rucker. He was
Power of 5.
He was kind of one of the first stage voices, if you will, on automotive SEO.
I would agree with that.
And he was certainly doing things that others weren't. There was a long time where JD had a different methodology where it's like just one of those people that like they're wired to be able to figure something like that out and take something complex and then simplify it and make it useful. And he and I think Brian Pash. Shortly after that, Brian started coming on the scene. And his entry point was automotive SEO as well. Yeah.
Cash for Clunkers too. Brian Pash really took Cash for Clunkers and kind of ran with that too. And I felt like JD Rucker was like a mad scientist. Like that's how brilliant mad scientist. He's like, now let's do this, yes. and then we, have to go out and sell it, but yeah, he was still brilliant. It's so funny how back then there were still dealerships who didn't even have a website. So we were literally convincing dealers, oh no, you need a website. Yeah, this website thing is going to stick around, and then there were dealers who had those awful websites. I know you know what I'm talking about. That first generation website where they had like the highlighted links all in a row, and the awful graphics and stuff. So,
animated GIFs and terrible scrollers.
Yeah. Then it was all about convincing dealers, no, you need a website. No, you need a slightly better website than that. And now everyone has a website. So now what's the next generation that dealers should be doing online? There's actually a lot dealers could be doing online. And I'm so surprised when I, especially from the marketing end, it hurts me when I see dealers not doing certain things. I'm like, but why? Why wouldn't you do those things? It's a no-brainer. That's really good use of your marketing dollars. And so, it always shocks me that I feel like dealers are still behind. Some dealers, not all, of course. Some dealers are still behind where we could be. But even still, compared to like RV and marine and power sports, we're way ahead of them. So yay, automotive. So
Well, I think just very quickly, I think there are a lot of dealers that they want to do the very best they can. But I think that so many of them have had technology that accelerated so fast that it made it not impossible, but very, very difficult to not just keep up with, but then once you're already behind the 8 ball, how to then go back and understand things and then prioritize them relative to what's going on at your dealership. Because we get a lot into that. I mean, every single issue of automotive news, which sits here to the right of me on my desk, every single week, there's something about EVs on front page, right? There's always something about electric vehicles or, batteries for electric vehicles or whatever, because that's all the rage. Everybody's talking about EVs. Okay, great.
Well, because I think a lot of people don't know about it. They're not comfortable with it. They're not comfortable selling them yet. There's EV, what do they call it? Anxiety. There's electrification anxiety.
Whatever NADA or automotive news or digital dealer or whomever is out there, auto success, whatever they're all talking about doesn't always mean that that's the most important thing at your dealership to be working on. And so if you've been under years and years and years of technology avalanche just burying you and you're like, okay, I got to start to figure this out and dig myself out, and you need to make this prioritized list. Shameless plug. I'm going to do a session in Tampa at Digital Dealer to try to help dealers with this, think through this process. So you won't get it all here on the What's Going On with Shaun episode. But I think a lot of dealers, not to their own fault, have been so buried in so many layers that they're like, where do we start? And if you start in the wrong place and it's a loss and you don't see the gain from it, you're going to immediately be like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing? And if you start in a place where it's like, I chose the right priorities and I got a win or a little bit of a win that builds us to the bigger win. then you see the succession plan start to unfold. And I think that's a really underserved part of how we help dealers. Oftentimes we just make them feel bad. What do you mean you're not doing X, Y, Z and this and this and this and this and this? It's because they're probably like, I barely know the difference between SEO and SEM. Like, oh, okay. Well, right. So anyway, I could go on and on. I'm curious. So I know at TK Car Sites, there were a lot of things that were going on. You are known. I don't know if people come up to you nowadays and say, "Hey, what's up, Webinar Goddess?" But you got the nickname of Webinar Goddess many years ago. It's probably going to now come back as the Webinar Goddess. But before you were the Webinar Goddess and you started doing webinars, where did you start doing that? Because it was I want to say I thought it was at TK, but maybe it wasn't.
It was at TK. Okay. Yeah, it was so funny because so they literally gathered up all the salespeople on a call and they said, "Hey, so we have this idea. We want to do like educational broadcasts. We need somebody who's a really good speaker, but who also knows our products. But I think it's going to be really good. Thought leadership, blah, blah, blah." You know, they're trying to sell it to the sales team. So, by the way, out of all of you, does any of you have broadcast experience? And I literally looked around. I was like, are they punking me right now? And like, no one said anything. I was like, yeah.
Yep.
So before that, I was a pretty good salesperson, but then I went into this and then I never looked back, and I found my niche on how to, use my voice, put educational spin to it, help dealers, and also, marry it to my love of automotive. And I hope it shows in my passion for, I always love the shows where I actually learn something new. Like you'll see it in my eyes. And I hope that if I learn at least one thing new, then I hope everyone who's also tuning in will also learn that one nugget that they can take forward and put to good use. So, yeah.
I don't know that a lot of people know. I know some, but there aren't a lot of people, especially people that have come into the business in the last handful of years. They might know that you were the Webinar Goddess, but they're going to associate that with the time that you spent at Dealer On, not knowing that it was birthed at TK Car Sites, right?
It was birthed at TK Car Sites.
It's funny because we've mentioned this a couple of times in this episode where it's like most of the providers out there, if you're in digital marketing services, websites, if you're in both, most of them can do the same things as each other. So you look for these different differentiating points of like what makes you different. But you come to the table, now you're at the dealer eProcess table. And it's not that you don't actually have previous experience with the exact same things that are being sold to dealers that are extremely still very much important.
Yes.
And you have this set of knowledge that you can only have if you've actually spent time in those roles. Like I always say, experience is the greatest differentiator. You have the experience of, even if you just count TK to Dealer On to, then to DEP, all of these things are so relevant, but also powerful when you're sitting down and talking to subject matter experts, because you leading and guiding that are not a person that doesn't have a clue about any of these things. You have more than a clue, which helps you facilitate an experience that's always going to come in a form of value to the people that are paying attention and listening and jumping on those webinars. Anyway, I could say a ton of stuff. I can go back to webinar stuff. So fantastic on that. Question for you regarding when you're doing all these MCs, and I think I already know the answer, but you're on a lot of stages, flying without a safety net. You just do it. And I know also from being a person that, does presentations or facilitation. And I think that you maybe get this from the same place I got it, is playing a lot of gigs as a musician, it toughens you up, especially when you're playing smoky bars and people are heckling or whatever, and you sink or swim. And I've never been on the stage in a professional environment doing a presentation where I've had anybody even close to say the things to me that I have when I've been playing music. Is that the same place where you got this confidence, or do you ever go up on stage at these automotive events and you got a little bit of butterflies or nervous? Do you get nervous anymore? And if not, or if so, why or why not?
Every time. I am still
yeah. Oh, wow.
I don't get nervous on webinars or broadcasts, although you are kind of making me nervous now, Shaun.
Nonsense.
That being said, but stage, every single time, I still get nervous. I don't know if it's nervous or if it's butterflies, but I think it's a good thing to have that excitement and, right before you go on stage. And I hope it comes across through the microphone, through the energy. Like I turn that, I don't want to call it anxiety, so let's just call it energy. And I feed it back to the audience. And I hope they feel that, because I don't want to be one of those Bueller guys on stage, and I want people to feel excited to be there and excited to learn. Learning should be fun, and yes, these are conferences and they're meant to, especially, like Digital Dealer and even Women in Automotive, they're meant to present sometimes very heavy subjects, but that doesn't mean that it can't be also entertainment. It doesn't mean that it can't be fun, and so that's the whole point. So whether I'm on stage, in a workshop, doing some kind of a mentorship, being interviewed by an old friend on a broadcast, or doing a webinar, I hope that it comes across as like edutainment, fun, interactive. That's what it should be about. I always think that learning gets a whole lot more fun when there's a fun element and an interactive element with it. So, but I know I still get nervous. I even get nervous right before I take the stage to sing a song at karaoke-thon.
I did not know that. That's great to know, but I'll have to compliment you in saying that, I've never ever, sensed or witnessed that in all the times that I've seen you on stage or singing karaoke. I think that really speaks to the fact that what we're talking about is nervous energy, right? That's the butterflies. So and there are people that would rather jump off a building than speak in public. I get it. Public speaking is terrifying to a lot of people. I understand why that is. But somebody that does it so well, like yourself, I think that's really, some people might say, well, that's grace under pressure. Yeah, it could be that. It's also nervous energy that's channeled through somebody that has the self-discipline to take nervous energy and turn it into something like you're describing. It makes it entertaining. You're using that in a positive way, where some people would feel that nervous energy and it would give them anxiety or break them down a little bit. And you've learned something which only comes from, hey, it's kind of facing it. It's almost like I'm throwing this back to things that make us comfortable or uncomfortable. Nervous energy for most people is uncomfortable, but can you take that into a growth and learning experience? And then does your self-discipline allow you to hone it into something that becomes a weapon for good? That's what you're doing, which is super cool. I like to think I do that pretty well.
Do you get nervous?
But not very much. And sometimes it worries me. Sometimes it worries me. Yeah. I'll give you a kind of a more current example in my life that, I have to have. It literally makes me feel like I'm still alive. And that is, during the pandemic, I started playing live music with a buddy of mine, Tom. We have this little group called All Songs Matter, and we go out and we play every, country, pop, rock, and we do them loungy. Played at all these little cool wineries and stuff. And most of my nervousness comes from if we haven't played a gig in a month. Usually it's about, if we haven't played in 4 weeks, I get in my own head about it. And so I am rehearsing and practicing and wanting to be there. But by the time we're setting up our gear and by the time I start to play and sing the very first song, I'm not nervous. I'm not nervous at all. I'm just like, let's go. And I used to, from time to time, I'd be a little bit nervous, but I don't really get nervous anymore. It's like I
get you.
Shift into that gear and it's like, it's go.
I get you. Like, for instance, when I emceed the last digital dealer, the one in Vegas, I was nervous. I got on stage. I did my opening thing. I introduced the first speaker. I got off stage. I wasn't nervous anymore. And then, I was on for the next 2.5 days, so it was just that first initial thing. So when I say I get nervous at Karaoke-thon, I get nervous for the first song, but the second and third song, I got it down. so I get nervous karaoke right before I go in, and then I'm good. And then I'm ready. I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds familiar.
Do you have a song in karaoke that's like, that breaks the seal, and then now everything else I could sing after this, but one that you're like, this is my go-to every single time?
Every single time?
Or most times?
Most times. Okay, so there's one that I feel like if I can sing that song really well, everything else afterwards is easy. And that's I'm the Only One by Melissa Etheridge. Because it's just very, very strong alto, that kind of thing. And then everything after that is easy peasy. But I'm still waiting for somebody to do a really, really good version of Paradise by the Dashboard Lights with me, because I got that female part down and no one will sing it with me. So
I'll have to learn it. I don't know if I could sing it or not. That's an ambitious tune. It's no joke. But maybe I'll try to learn it so one day I could do that with you.
Honestly, I've always wanted to try to attempt Barracuda, but I don't think I could do it. Like, I don't think anyone will ever be able to do that song justice.
That song is, anything that Ann Wilson sings to me is like, she's literally one of my favorite female voices ever, even though she's in the rock genre, which is, of course, I love it. Yeah. But she's one of those that it's almost like, don't touch it. That said,
I know
my little duo talk about bending people's brains. We mash up a lot of songs and people freaking love it. And if you don't know how to arrange music or hear things that are in the same chords or same progressions, and then you just take one down a step or two and then they mash together. We mash Crazy on You, Heart, with One Republic. Their like biggest song, counting lately I've been losing sleep.
No. Really?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear that.
And every time we turn the corner out of the Heart song, Crazy on You, and go right into that One Republic tune, people are like, what? It's kind of like when we mash up a Justin Bieber song with Flock of Seagulls, I Ran So Far Away. People are like, what? Yeah, just fun stuff.
That is great. Anyway,
so you don't always have to have a karaoke go-to. Interesting. I don't feel that way either, but usually when we're doing these events, no one's ever singing rock songs.
I try and read the room. Like, would they rather hear some Gloria Gaynor, or is it, is it, something by Alicia Keys that's going to get them going? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you always hit it out of the ballpark with the karaoke stuff. Hey, I got a couple questions for you about like speakers and events and all that. One, on speakers, are there people like you remember, like the first time you ever heard or saw them speak and you were like, oh, wow, like they're amazing? And if so, do you want to name them? And do you remember when that was? Like, are there any people like that just like, man, first time I ever heard or saw this person in automotive, or they don't even have to be?
Okay, so there was, look, I said earlier, I love when I go on a webinar and I learn something. I will always love Jason Rice from Lot Pop, because I did a webinar with him. I want to say it was Dealer On. I believe it was a Dealer On webinar. I did a webinar with him. And he went live on the internet and showed us how he prices cars and why it works. His pricing method works better on, like, let's say Craigslist. Right. And he said, I know all the car dealers, they always post their cars. Oh, this is $25,995. He's like, here's why that doesn't work. And he went live and he showed us live and he did the search. And literally I was like, and then, the chat board on the interface was like, wait, what did he tell him to do that again? Wait, and it was like 100 people all writing in at once saying, wait, I don't understand, and it was the funniest thing. And it was amazing to see. It was literally like a huge light bulb moment for everyone. All at the same time. And we all got it at the same time. And it was one of those kinds of, it wasn't the only moment, but that's the one that comes to mind. Like, I'm sure that I did one with Elise Kephart, and she was, talking about video. She was talking about video lead response. And she showed real time, like live in 5 minutes, how she records the video. And in 5 minutes flat, she recorded the video. And she did all the editing right in front of all of us live, and again, it was like a light bulb moment. So don't tell me you can't do video lead response, was basically the thing. And it's those kinds of awesome moments that are make it just so worth it.
Yeah. Shout out Elise. Shout out Jason.
Yes. I mean, stuff like that. Like, it happens all the time to me. And there are moments of brilliance that happen all the time. I'm sure, there were a few mic drop moments just yesterday with Greg Gifford on the DEP webinar. He's one of the most brilliant guys I think both of us know. So that's why thought leadership is so important. That's why learning and being look, I'm smart enough to know I don't know everything. So I am always having an open ear and listening to those experts in their field so that I can pick up one or two nuggets. And audience, if you're the same way, then you know what I'm talking about. And it's just keeping that open mind and being willing to learn those new things. Be always willing to learn.
Yeah, those are some great shout outs there for sure. Some of my favorites too.
Oh, good.
Who, if anyone, who inspires you, that inside or outside of the car business? Are there people that are like, man, and where do you get your inspiration from? Is it a person? Is it a thing? Is it like, what inspires you?
Damn, that's a really good question. Honestly, I just, I like to think that I keep an open mind, just like I said, always be willing to learn. And when I say be always willing to learn, you have to be observant, and I think it might come from my love of moderating and being able to ask those kinds of questions. But when I see in someone something, anything, the way they maybe interact with somebody, the way they remember a person's name, having only briefly known what that person's name was, or the way they remember somebody after meeting them and it's 2 years later, for instance. When I see somebody who has a certain characteristic or trait that I value, that I wish I had, I see it in them. I recognize it. And then I say, you know what? I want that for myself. I want to be able to hold a microphone with ease and be able to talk on stage with ease. I want to be able to command an entire room. I want to be able to show somebody a kindness when they're not expecting it. Whatever it is, I pick up little things from everyone, even you, Shaun. I recognize the best part of their own self, their own personality. And if it's something that I know I don't currently have, I know I have to work on that. And I'll say, you know what? I wish I did that thing like Shaun does. Like, that would make me a better person. I'm actually inspired by a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. I once met a woman that I thought was just the most selfless woman. And I said, I wish I could be more selfless like her. And I made myself more selfless in honor of her, you, for instance, Shaun, you are great at taking a piece of information and making somebody care about it. Like, it might be a piece of information that they think is a throwaway piece of information, but you would take that piece of data or that piece of information, you'd say, yeah, but you know why you should want to know more about that? Because you care about this thing. This is one of your goals. And that's why it should be important to you. And so what we can do with this piece of information is this, 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 and this. And that's going to help you get to your goal quicker. And you have that realization, Shaun, where you're able to do that. And you're able to read that analytic and turn it into a positive. That's just one of the things that I picked up from you, being able to steal that from you. I hope you don't mind, my friend. and realize that's a great characteristic I wish I had. I wish I could work on and see in others what you wish you were better at yourself, and make it happen. See what that person does, recognize it, and say, if I could just be a little bit more like that person does that one thing, it would make me a better person. And so I'm inspired.
I love that answer. It makes me think that you have read 2 books that I'm going to reference right now. Even if you haven't, if you yourself decide to be inspired, like, I want to read these books. The first is actually a very small book, a little square. You can get it easily on Amazon. I will not drop a link. I'm not an Amazon affiliate, but I will shout out Chris Chatterton, who's on the Hired Guns team. He turned me onto this book. It's called Steal Like an Artist. 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative by Austin Kleon.
I never read that one. I will find that one.
A little square book. It's called Steal
Easy
Like
read.
an Artist. Steal Like an Artist. And it talks a lot about these things that you're sharing right there. It was almost as if you were inspired. But yeah, absolutely. It goes back to the Old Testament. We don't need to have a conversation about religion, but in terms of texts that are some of the oldest that are known on the planet, like it or not, the Bible, including the Old Testament, is one of. And anyway, my point in referencing that is because of such a historical old document or book. In the book of Ecclesiastes, there is a scripture that says there's nothing new under the sun. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's what it means. And if you think about everything from the point of time that somebody wrote down those words to the place where we are today, there isn't a lot. We see things different. We change things a lot, but there's been this, I'm going to learn from, I'm going to take from, I'm going to borrow from, I'm going to steal from because I'm a thief. And that's what continues to propel us forward and how that's done. And so I listened to your answer and I'm like, that sounds like you've read some of these books. So Steal Like an Artist. And then the other book that I would tell people that they might be greatly inspired by is called Love is the Killer App. And that was written several years ago, maybe getting close to 20 years ago, at least 15, by Tim Sanders. And that book is another one where I remember when I read that, I was like, oh man, we talk about a lot of things in business development and sales around scarcity and abundance. And like we use these scarcity taxes and the science of selling. And I've never been a real big fan of the scarcity play because I feel like it's so disingenuous and it's doesn't respect somebody's intellect. And I get it. There are a lot of people. I mean, look around the world today. There's a lot of people, especially those that think they're really smart and they're not. And whatever, I suffer through it. But
we all do.
A sidebar. There are also a lot of people that recognize that, oh, you know what? It's not so much the scarcity, it's the abundance that oftentimes moves people forward. And he says in that book that great ideas are worthless if you keep them to yourself. Right?
Oh, that's true.
And so there's risk when you come up with, this is a great new idea. And there's a lot of things like that that kind of, probably inform how I try to live my life and be the guy that I am wanting to be. But I love your answer, and it makes me think about Steal Like an Artist and Love is the Killer App because it's great advice. We should always be taking and stealing from each other in our pursuit of being good humans, helping others. It's kind of the Zig Ziglar, I think, is the one that said it, help as many people get what they want, and you'll probably end up getting whatever it is that you want. And
I was going more along the lines of be 1% better tomorrow than you were today. And hey, after a year, let's see where you are. You know what I mean? And so, not that there's anything wrong with you.
Right.
But isn't there always just a little room for improvement?
Sure. Yeah. Constant. Okay. So a few things I'm going to shift into a higher gear in just a second, because we're going to do a fast round of this or that, but not before I ask you this question. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. I think about this because people are probably tired of my joke in this. I'm not Luke Skywalker anymore. I feel like Yoda. I've been in it for a minute. You know, I was one of the
start talking weird?
carrying wagons across. You know, my real mentors were, Ralph Paglia and that whole crew. And so at this point now in my career, I think of a lot about the next generation or the new generation. And many of them have been sprouting up, and some of them are only, maybe 5 or 10 years younger than me. And some of them are much younger than that. And I think about how can I individually, and I'm asking you this, how do we teach this new generation how to learn from our mistakes, and how do we prepare them to be able to improve our industry? Because we talk a lot about how it's going to change even faster in the next 5 or 10 years, which I don't disagree with. But this newer generation that doesn't have the same experience, I find myself thinking about how can I at least have some positive effect on helping them learn from, mistakes that we've made, but also prepare them to be thinking about improvement of the industry. You have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, it's one thing to think about moving the industry forward, but it's another thing to bring people along with you. And I'm just I think it's more important to teach people about leadership, and we need more leaders, better leaders, that help everyone strive for more and strive for better. And I think I don't know enough on this subject. I don't know if I'm the expert on that. I try and do my part through Women in Automotive and through, all this education that I try and put out there, and thought leadership, and bringing other strong voices, into the mix, so that we all get on the same page of moving the industry forward. And even with my voice and all of the different avenues that I use it in, I don't know if I'm doing enough. I mean, I hope I am. But even if you're just one person and you help just one person make it to the next level, just one, then I think you're in rarefied air. And you can do that. I mean, I know I said earlier about mentorship. Well, there's also sponsorship. There's also allyship. And there's ways that you can help other people get to the next rung. And if you're really lucky, 2 things will happen. 1, that person won't forget it. And 2, they'll do it for somebody else.
Yeah. Pay it forward.
Yeah. So I hope, and honestly, I think, Shaun, you would agree with me. I think that if everyone just did a little bit, man, what a different place this world would be. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of how we parked the episode, but we're almost not quite there. We're going to do a fun speed round on something, but you're basically setting up exactly how I love to end every episode, which is how do we be the difference in the world beyond just the automotive industry? But before we get to that, we're going to play a little bit of this or that. We're going to learn some other things about you. And so you don't have to overthink your answers. Some of these might be more challenging than others, but this is going to be some of the fun stuff as we try to figure out how to land the plane on this episode. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hot dog or corn dog?
Hot dog with mustard.
Okay. Taco or burrito?
Ooh, gotta go with taco.
Medium or hot sauce?
Oh, mild.
Okay.
Sorry.
These ones are all food related. As you can tell, I'm hungry. Burger or pizza?
Burger.
Ice cream or cake?
Ice cream. Ooh. Ice cream. Ooh.
Mm.
Okay, unless it's strawberry shortcake. Then it is always strawberry shortcake.
Okay. Can a person eat strawberry shortcake without vanilla ice cream?
No, you cannot.
I think that's one that has to go together. Okay. Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, I don't really drink soda, so I go with Coke. I don't know.
No, okay, easy. Wine or whiskey?
If those are my only two choices, I'm going to go with wine.
Okay.
But anyone who knows me knows it's Fireball. All right, so
Fireball.
Yes.
Tap water or bottled water?
Bottled water, but not Dasani. Ever. Not ever Dasani.
Whoa. Okay. How about do you have a favorite bottled water as a bonus
Fiji.
question?
Yes,
Fiji. Okay. I do drink Fiji. Also like
Fuji? I forget.
Evian. Shout out Barry Brodsky. He loves the Evian. He's like, why don't you drink the snobby water with me? I'm like, all right, it's pretty good. So, it tests well too. Okay. Raiders of the Lost Ark or Star Wars?
Oh, Star Wars. As a matter of fact, if you text me, although my phone is on silent, but if you text me, my text sound is a lightsaber. So
perfect. Love it. There are no wrong answers here.
There's no wrong answers.
In the Brad Pitt category, Legends of the Fall or Fight Club?
What's in the box? But that being said, I watched Legends of the Fall 2 weeks before I gave birth to my only child, and his name is Tristan. Take from that what you will.
Inspired by?
Legends of the Fall.
And it was inspired by? I literally put that question in there because I thought, I wonder if she named her son after. Oh my goodness.
We fought.
My wife
we fought over the boy name we didn't know if we were having a boy or girl. The girl name we got right away, but of course we had a boy, and we fought over the boy name for the entire 9 months, and we couldn't come up with a name. And so if I told you the name that was the front runner before we actually settled on Tristan, you would be like, no, that couldn't be true. But it's true. The name that we the only name we could agree on was Optimus Prime. We almost named our son Optimus Prime. And then we
could call him Opie.
Oh my God, my husband said the same thing. So, but yeah, no, cooler heads prevailed. And then when my son turned like 5 or 6 years old, my husband told him the story of, oh, we almost named you Optimus Prime. And from the back seat of the car while he was telling the story, but your mother didn't want to name you Optimus Prime, and instead we called you Tristan. My kid is 15 years old, and I don't think he's forgotten about it. He certainly hasn't forgiven me for it. I could have been Optimus Prime. Are you kidding me? And so there you have it. But Tristan, Legends of the Fall. There you go.
Got it. I've watched that movie a number of times. The wife really likes it. It's a pretty good movie, actually. A lot of great acting in that movie. I feel like Legends of the Fall was one of those, let's see how many times we can make people cry. Just fall out crying, because there's so many brutally sad scenes. But I'm also a big Fight Club fan. All right,
Fight Club is awesome.
Superman or Batman?
I love them both. No, I can't pick.
Okay. All right. Stalemate on that one. Okay. Wonder Woman or the Bionic Woman?
Okay, Wonder Woman, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Especially if it's, Linda Gray.
Yeah. Oh, Linda. Not Linda Gray.
It's not Linda Gray. Linda Carter. Linda
Carter. Oh, legend. She's still amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Oh,
still amazing. Although Gal Gadot,
gorgeous.
Awesome.
Yeah. Motley Crue or Miley Cyrus?
Motley Crue. It's not even close. Literally my first concert I ever went to.
This is Eliana's questions, not Shaun's. I do songs in my duo from both of those bands, by the way. But here's one that's
do you do a mashup between Motley Crue and Miley Cyrus is what inquiring minds want.
I don't. They're their own independent songs, not mashed with anything.
Got it.
Okay, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Beatles.
Me too. Eddie Van Halen or Jimi Hendrix?
Eddie Van Halen.
Air guitar or air drums?
Oh. Oh.
They're both pretty awesome.
Yeah. I feel like air drums has more to it.
As a drummer, I love that answer. I love the guitar. I really can't. I've tried.
I mean, but air guitar is right here. But,
it's cool,
air drums.
Okay, this is just more silly, fun, and life type stuff. Test the waters or jump into the deep end.
Well, I told you I get nervous, so I guess I test the waters. Probably more than I should. More than I should.
Okay. Pineapple on your pizza or candy corn?
Pineapple on the pizza. Love pineapple on my pizza. And I hate candy corn, so no.
Sort by price or sort by rating?
What are we shopping for?
Well, that's not the question. Sort by price or sort by rating?
I don't know what we're shopping for. Okay. Sort by rating.
Okay. Crunchy peanut butter or smooth?
Smooth.
Night or morning?
Morning.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix. Ooh,
Game
these
of
are
Thrones
easy ones.
Or Breaking Bad?
Okay, love them both, but I'm a Game of Thrones nut. So
I know the wife and I just recently started going back to the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I was so jealous of the people during the lockdown who got to see Game of Thrones for the first time. I mean, I watched it again during the lockdowns, but like for the people who were just now discovering it, Hodor, oh, come on.
Oh, I know.
The Reigns of Castamere, oh my gosh. What?
Oh, Red Wedding. Oh. Just recently watched that episode.
Yes, I know.
Okay, city or country?
Beach.
Okay. All right. Ambition or comfort?
Comfort.
Messy desk or clean desk?
Always clean. You should see.
All right. These last two are pretty good.
These are heavy? Intense?
A little more so.
Okay.
But see the future or change the past? Told you. I even gave you a disclaimer.
The past.
Yeah, see the future or change the past.
I got to tell you, I'm not one who lives in the past. That being said, I'm also not one who regrets much. So I think I'm going to go with see the future.
See the future. All right.
That is a very interesting question, Shaun Rains.
Yeah, I got a few.
Yeah, you got some locked in. Let's look. Coming from a professional question asker, that is a very good question.
Yes, I like this or that at the end of these episodes because it's just fun to hear. Like, well, now I know Eliana's more of a morning person. She doesn't like being night owl. She can be, but okay.
I think it's because I'm old and I go to sleep earlier now. I don't know.
It's just it's interesting. So the last this or that though is it might be the toughest one of them all. Are you ready?
I don't think
I feel like I'm building this. I'm building it up so much. The drama.
Oh my God. Okay, if I answer it quickly, then you'll know you're wrong. Go ahead. I'm ready. Okay, no, I'm not ready. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Save 100 strangers or one person you love.
You're going to make me cry. I don't know. Why would you ask that terrible question?
Save 100 strangers or one person you love. You can also say, well, pass. I can't.
Like
But,
that question is devastating.
right? Isn't that
Yeah.
hard? This or that?
That's a terrible question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that says about me. I mean, look, I think if you even save one person, like just one person, if you save one person in your entire life, you were put here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was one person that it was somebody that you loved and you didn't want to live without?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, either answer is amazing.
Yeah, that's a tough one. When I was like, am I going to start to put this one in? Like, I got to put this in there because I think that
That's a terrible, awful, amazing question.
Yeah, but it's one that I think a lot of people should be like, what would I do?
I'm sorry. Did you say what your answer was?
No, you didn't ask me. But my answer to that question has changed over the years. And I'll just say this briefly. I have been told that a spiritual gift that I have is mercy. That one of the reasons why some people are like, well, like, why are you kind of default to being they don't use the word mercy. It's because it's usually just people don't talk about mercy a lot. But I've had people say, you have like a spiritual gift of being a very merciful person. Like there are people that should have gotten a different response from you or whatever. I'm like, okay. I don't know that I'm ever going to go to my grave regretting being a merciful person. It will mean, and it very much means that some of the things that I've experienced in life, I could have been a lot nastier in my response to, but just wasn't in my nature, maybe. But I feel like as every day goes by, I get closer and closer to answering that with, I'd save one person that I really, really, really love before I would save 100 strangers. And I say that because I feel like we're getting more disassociated from each other in ways that previously I'd be like, I'll save 100 people. Like I'll do that because it's the right thing to do. And it concerns me. Like it concerns me that, and I hope that even people, as we close down this episode, you're the kind of person that's like this as well, where you want to do the most good for the most people and the right things for the reasons, affecting the most people as you possibly can. That's the kind of person I am. I'd be mortified if people were like, yeah, Shaun's nice. He's kind of funny and, whatever. He does this karaoke thing, but he's super selfish. Right.
Yeah.
Or, those aren't the attributes that I would want people to think of me in, but it concerns me. And I would definitely say, I think that you and I probably are people that we can continue to say, hey, we're looking in the mirror. We want to be better, so that the answer is like, we want to save as many people as we can. And we have to be mindful of how we treat each other and what's going on in our world to keep that spirit alive in other people. Not just how you and I answer that question. How is everyone else that we live with and we walk by and we associate with in our industry and outside of it? How is everyone else answering that question? Because we literally see it every single day of how people really are answering that question, and they're not saving 100 strangers, right? And I think we need to be in a mindset where we are trying to do the most good every chance we get. That's the world we need to be living in. So anyway, at the end of this, I was going to say, is there anything you want to ask me? And you just did. So that's my answer.
Well, that was a really hard question. So thank you for sharing your answer too. Yeah.
I didn't want to leave you alone in that. So
thank you.
As I think about the closing of this episode, I love to close What's Going On with Shaun episodes by telling a little bit about this whole be the difference. I kind of have used that as a I don't know, battle cry for a long time of like, I always, in whatever the equation is, I want to be the difference. I want the customer to say, I work with that company because Shaun Rains is the person I deal with, and he does such an amazing job. He always takes care of us, blah, blah, whatever those reasons are. I want to be the difference. And I think about that and how I want to be a dad, how I want to be a husband, the person I want to be the difference. And I fail a lot. I make a lot of mistakes. But I think that oftentimes being the difference is, what am I doing in my life? If people got to go way beyond the layers of what they know or what they think they know of me in the car business or whatever, that if they got to even see more, that they would, whatever impression they have of me, that it would be actually the same. Well, I didn't know he liked doing these things, but it's still that same person who's wanting to influence people in a way, inspire people in a way that makes them have a better day tomorrow than they had today, and on and on and on. But I always like to ask people, what does that mean to you to be the difference? And some people, it's, I'm really involved in this charity, or I like to do this. But when you think of that, like being the difference in a world that's starving for that, what thoughts come to your mind?
You are asking the hard-hitting questions, my friend. Well, okay. So a few moments ago, you said, that you've been told, and I'm just going to use a different word for it. Your superpower is mercy, right? So my superpower, as I've been told, and as I've come to realize, is something that I wish a lot more people in this world would have, and that's empathy. A little bit like mercy, but empathy. And I think that if you can not just put yourself in somebody else's shoes, see their point of view, try and really understand their struggles, their challenges, what they're going through. If you can do that, and that's not to say that you would maybe do anything differently than have that understanding within yourself when you deal with that person about where they're coming from. Literally walk a mile in their shoes, as they say. It's because in the end, we're just here for a little bit of time on this world, alive.
Yeah.
What's your legacy going to be when you leave here? And even if you don't even think of your own legacy, at least at the very least, just be in the moment. If people had more empathy in their lives and showed more kindness, earlier on in the presentation, you said, Shaun, that you were quoting somebody else, that a great idea has no power if you don't share it with somebody, right? I would posit that kindness also doesn't do anyone any good unless you actually give it away, unless you actually share it, unless you actually show it to somebody. Yeah. And this world could use a whole lot more of that. Understanding, kindness, empathy. And guess what? It will make you a better leader. It will make you a better employer. It will make you a better employee. It will make you a better person. And you will not regret it. I promise you. Kindness doesn't cost you anything. Neither does empathy. Neither does mercy. And I'm surprised at how very few people actually make an effort to bestow it upon other people. And I think, along the same lines, that empathy is going to take you a long way also in business, not just in leadership, but also with your clients. When you have an angry client who gets in touch with you and says, you did this to me, or why isn't this working this way? Well, come at it from his point of view. He paid money. He was expecting a result. He didn't get that result. He's upset. Now, if you have empathy, then you say, okay, Mr. Client, I see you're upset. I'm hearing you. Let's take a deeper dive. And or maybe I didn't, set the expectation properly. That's just one way to use empathy. The other way is, all the other ways, they're just as easy. It's just, we have to get out of our own way and see that there is always, another side to whatever situation there is. And I hope that when I do finally leave this world, that people will remember me for my kindness, for my empathy, and for being a good friend. And that's all.
I think they absolutely will. I know they absolutely will.
Thank you.
And there is no better place to park this long overdue episode of you, for sure. And I will tell the audience what I tell everyone at the end of every one of these episodes. Now you know what's going on with Eliana Raggio.